Hello again, everyone. We begin tonight in Kaduna State, where the terrorists that attacked the Abuja-Kaduna bound AK-9 train on March 28 have released 7 more hostages, leaving 27 still in captivity.
Indeed. Now, the released hostages reunited with their families today in Kaduna State after spending more than 130 days in captivity. Those released include 4 children and 3 adults. It was gathered that Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, for the first time since the abduction of the train passengers, helped to facilitate the release of these 7 persons. But it's still unclear if any ransom was paid. Speaking exclusively with the Rise News, Sheikh Gumi appealed to the terrorists to release those still in captivity and accept dialogue. He's also calling on the Nigerian government to be proactive in securing the release of others.
There is no bound for negotiations. 65 of us boarded March 28, 2022. We boarded the train, a federal government train. For goodness sake, what does it take the federal government to negotiate, to sit with these people, find out their grievances? They have innocent people, hardworking people, men who have left their children, they have left their wives for over 135 days. There are people there stranded. They don't have any means. Please, we're pleading on the federal government. Please, sit with these people. Seek Sheikh Gumi's audience, please. By the grace of God, with him here, he could assist and alleviate and help solve these problems.
It's been tough, but we thank God for His grace and mercy. And the prayers, we know that we've prayed and we know that we've had the prayers of our loved ones with us back in the forests there. It hasn't been easy. Everyone has been sick. I came back with my daughter sick because there has not been medication. She hasn't been responding to treatment that from the medications they've given. But we thank God for mercy and grace, and we just pray that the rest of the people that we left back would be released as soon as possible. So whatever the government or whoever it is that can support to get them out, we pray that they do whatever they can to get them out as soon as possible.
We're happy. After 135 days, this beautiful family, innocent family, have secured their release this morning. My call is targeted to 2 people. First, the kidnappers. What will they benefit from taking innocent people? People who are themselves weak, especially children, families. What benefits do they want to incur? If they are complaining of grievances, then you don't vent your anger. You don't vent your anger on the innocent. So I beseech them and pray to them to please release everybody. And let's come and sit down on a negotiating table and see how we can solve our problems together. I am happy that none of them is injured or none of them is physically abused. But the psychological trauma will need a lot of time to heal. The second target is the authority and the nation as a whole. How can we leave children like this, a family like this, 135 days? Whatever it is they want, I don't see any limit to negotiations so that we can free them and then sit down and see how we can tackle our problems.
We're being joined now by security analyst Dr. Yahuza Getso. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you again on Newsnight. Why do you think these terrorists continue to release the victims piecemeal? What point do you think they're trying to make? And listening to one of the victims there, the released victims, he says, look, whatever it takes government to do, government really needs to do.
Well, I think everybody should understand the fact that even these guys mentioned at some time, based on some of the information received from the government and other agencies, saying the fact that they are not releasing based on a certain exchange of money or whatever. But it is very clear for everybody to know that The first victim that was released, who was the managing director of the Bank of Agriculture, who was said to have been released based on the fact that it was a month of Ramadan and his age and his health situation. I dispute that quickly. Why? Because I have a mother to a close friend who is still in captivity, not among those who have been released. And we have been discussing and negotiating on the amount of money that is expected to be paid so that they can be able to release. And she just came back from the foreign medical trip on arrival at the airport, together with her daughter who conveyed her. They joined the same train where that happened. And she's more senior in terms of age than even the managing director. And her health situation was more kind of more troublesome than that of the managing director. So the question is, it is very clear that the owner of the Desert Herald, Mamu, who had been saying that he has been frustrated by
one of the
government.
mediators.
Yeah. So I think it is very clear that these guys are just releasing the people based on the price, based on the negotiation, and based on what they have received from the families of those who paid the ransom. And it is very clear. So if government is really committed and serious, we commend our security personnel for the little effort they have been making, especially the arrest of those who are behind the old church attack. It is really commendable. We know that if not because of the little input that our agile security personnel are doing, we wouldn't have been here, myself and you, doing what we are doing here.
Right.
But notwithstanding, government have not been doing enough. And if this is the enough they are saying, enough is not yet enough.
Yeah, but what more should government do? Because we heard, the point being made there that government needs to do more. Government needs to be more proactive. Well,
what government's supposed to do immediately is there are conditions governing the release of the rest of whosoever is still in the captivity. And government knows what are these conditions, which have not been made public by either the two parties. But it is known part of it that there are some of their colleagues who are still in captivity in the prison under the custody of the government. So government should do everything possible. Because looking at the younger children, look at the old age that are being beaten in the forest and they're staying for 100+ days. It's pathetic and painful.
It's heartbreaking, and indeed, our prayers and our thoughts are with you and your family friend who is still held in captivity. We do hope that they are released soon and reunited with their families. But really, how difficult can it be to release kidnapped victims? The president gave an order to his security chiefs a couple of weeks ago to ensure the release of all kidnapped victims across the country, especially the Kaduna train victims. So really, how difficult is it? Because we hear the government say, we want to avoid collateral damages. I also want you to answer to Sheikh Gumi, who continues to advocate for negotiation. Is that a possible way out of this?
Well, it has been a very possible way out of it. Why? Because the families, if the families were able to negotiate and get their people released, why government can't do that? They can swap. Even if it means that allowing these people to get their freedom in release of some of the other guys, or government have a different strategies by which you can employ when you have a negotiation. Bring these guys to the round table, and you made mention that the president have given orders.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. How many instructions have been given by the president and have never been respected by the security personnel? A statement has been made one time that anybody who is cited with AK-47 should aside. But we have seen the security agencies, the services, sitting on a table presenting a number of people that have been arrested, apprehended. Why do you have to apprehend them alive? The reason why the president have given that instruction is for that to serve as a deterrence for others to stay away from doing the something. So whatever government should do, and whatever it takes and whatever it means to get these people in captivity, especially those in the forest, released on time, government should do that.
Let me take you on the negotiation. We have a program called Operation Safe Corridor, which is supposedly to de-radicalize repentant insurgents and try to reintegrate them into society. Would you say that has worked? If it has not worked, why are we still talking about conversation with the terrorists?
The question I have been asking is, do you have anything like repentant bandits, repentant Boko Haram or whatever?
Very good question.
Why? Because there are, if at all they are repentant, we need to have 5 evidences. One of the evidence, the number of arms and ammunition that have been recovered from them. The second, the intelligence information being tapped from them should have been utilized in destroying all the formations of all the terrorists, be they kidnappers, ISWAP, Ansaru, Boko Haram, or whosoever they are. And then there should be a camp and a strategic action plan that will be drawn by the 2 parties, that is the government and the public, as well as the civil society organizations, to sit down and have a roadmap for how to kind of change the mentality and rehabilitate these guys. We didn't see that. And 3 and 4, I mean, we have noticed in the government have been proclaiming that there are repentant bandits, there are repentant Boko Haram, there are repentant terrorists. These repentant terrorists supposed to have been utilized as a machinery towards destroying the criminality and criminal activity. And 5, which is the final, we have seen what the drama that happened at the Kuje jailbreak. So we supposed to have these guys. Why have you kept them in the prison for 2 years or more? Why can't you do what is right? Prosecute them before the court of law so that they can be dealt with accordingly. Right. So that if it means that some of them can be rehabilitated, then you can be able to proceed with a process.
Very
but we have been hearing in thousands.
These mediators, do they further complicate these issues? I mean, whether it's in the case of, Gumi intervening in this issue, or do they, help issues in the first place?
Well, I think I have been part of those who have been negotiating at one time or another. That is through a phone call, because I do meet the victims of those who have been kidnapped either in their communities. I'm a community-based practice person that normally go into deep of where it happens, get information and extract phone numbers, and also facilitate in the process of negotiations. So in the process, what really matters, there are some languages that you have to use in order to convince them. There are a lot of people that I was able to convince for them to get released without receiving any ransom. And there are a lot of some of the bandits or kidnappers or other forest terrorists that I've been able to convince to accept some of the government discussions, to have some of the roundtable discussions. That is why I keep saying that the government have not been doing enough. There are gaps that need to be filled in. And I'm very optimistic that if these gaps are filled, definitely we are going to move to the next step, not next level.
Okay, I see the point there, but thank you so much. We do appreciate your insight, and thank you for being on the news tonight. Security analyst, Dr. Yahuza Getso.